Hello, today you'll be learning about factoring trinomials. You have already learned the lesson on how to multiply two binomials. Now you will learn how to take the answers you got in the previous lesson and change them back into the question. For review, pause this video and try the review question. When you are finished, play the video to check and continue. The first step into solving this problem is to use the FOIL method. FOIL stands for first, outer, inner, and last. So, for the first step of the problem, we're going to do the first. That is the x times the x to give you x squared. Then, you're going to do the outer, which is the x times the negative 3 to get negative 3x. Then you're going to do the inner to get the 5 times the x to get positive 5x. And then you're going to do the last of 5 times negative 3, which is negative 15. Here we have like terms, so you're going to combine them. And you get x squared plus 2x minus 15. This is the answer to the problem. Now, you will learn how to change this back into its original form. The first form that I will show you how to factor today is x squared plus bx plus c. To demonstrate this, I will be using the problem x squared plus 15x plus 56. The first step is to find two numbers that have the product of 56 and of the sum of 15. To make this easier, I like to use a t-chart and put positive 15 on one side and positive 56 on the other. To make finding the two numbers that have the product of 56 easier, you can make a factor list of 56. 1 times 56, 2 times 28, 4 times 14, and 7 times 8. The two numbers that get closest to 15 are 7 and 8. So I'm going to put that on the side of 15. Now you must look at the signs. You first have to look at the sign on the C, which is 56. We know that a positive times a positive equals a positive, and a negative times a negative equals a positive. So that means that the two numbers have to be either both negative or both positive. To figure this out, we look at the sign on the B, which is 15. If the sign on the B is positive, we know that a positive plus a positive equals a positive, and a negative plus a negative equals a negative. The sign on the B is positive, so we know that 7 and 8 will both be positive. As you learned in the previous lesson, the two binomials are set up like so. They each have an x in them. In this lesson, it does not matter which spot you put the 7 or the 8 in. So I'm going to put the positive 7 here and the positive 8 here. This is the answer to the problem. Now, to check your answer, you can use the FOIL method. So I'm going to start with the first and go x times x, which is x squared. Then you're going to do outer, which is x times positive 8, which is positive 8x. Then I'm going to do inner, positive 7 times x is positive 7x. And then I'm going to do last, which is positive 7 and positive 8, which gives you positive 56. Now we have our like terms here, so we can combine. And we know that positive 8x and positive 7x will give you positive 15x. So the simplified answer is x squared plus 15x plus 56, which is the same problem that you see at the top. Now that I've shown you what to do, pause this video and try the review problem. Once you're finished, play the video to check and continue. The problem is x squared plus 8x minus 48. The first step to solving the problem is to find two numbers that have the product of negative 48 and have the sum of positive 8. I like to start by making the factor tree. It is actually the t-chart. So I'm going to put a positive 8 over here and a negative 48 over here. The easiest way to start is by making a factor list for 48. So that's going to include 1 times 48, 2 times 24, 3 times 16, 4 times 12, and 6 times 8. Now, looking at the list, you can tell that 4 and 12 are the closest to 8. So I'm going to put the 4 and the 12 here. Now we must look at the signs. The sign on the 48 is negative. So we know that a positive times a negative equals a negative. So we have to look at the sign on the 8 to tell which number will be positive and which will be negative. Because the sign on the 8 is positive, we know that the greater number between the 4 and the 12 has to be the positive, so the number as the sum will stay positive. So we know that the 12 is going to be positive and the 4 is going to be negative. So if we set up our binomials, just like that, then we can plug in the 12 and the 4. It does not matter where you plug in the numbers as long as they have the correct signs. So I'm going to plug in the 12 here and the negative 4 here. This is the answer to the problem. We can use the FOIL method to check the problem. So first is x on x, and that's x squared. Outer is x times negative 4, which is negative 4x. Inner is positive 12x. And last is negative 48. Then we have our like terms here. So we know that negative 4x plus 12x will give us positive 8x. So the simplified answer is x squared plus 8x minus 48, which is the same answer as the top problem. Now that you know how to factor the first form, I'm going to show you a real-life situation. The formula for the number of games to be played in a football league, where each team is to play each other twice, is n equals x squared minus x, where x is the number of teams in the league and n is the number of games to be played. If the league wants to limit the games to a total of 132 games, how many teams can be in the league? According to the formula, n represents the number of games played. Since they've told you that they want to play 132 games, n equals 132. Once we plug in that, all you have to do is factor the rest of the equation. So, you have the formula 132 equals x squared minus x. So you want to bring in the 132 to the other side, so we have a trinomial. So you're going to get x squared minus x minus 132. Now, you make your t-chart, and you have the negative 132 and the negative 1 from the x. Now, if for people that have a difficult time, they can make a chart going down for factoring. However, I already know that the two numbers are going to be 12 and 11. Since the 1 is negative, that means the greater number is going to have to be negative. In between 11 and 12, 12 is the greater number. So that means that 12 is going to be negative and 11 is going to be positive. Now you already know how to set up your binomials, and you just need to make sure that you have the correct signs. The negative 12 on one side and the positive 11 on the other. And your equal sign with the 0 over here. Now you can split it up into two problems where you have x minus 12 equals 0 and x plus 11 equals 0. Now, you're going to add and subtract the 11 to the other side so you don't have an equal 0. So you're going to add the 12 and you're going to subtract the 11. So that gives x equals positive 12 and x equals negative 11. Since x represents the number of football teams in a league, x cannot be negative. Therefore, the leagues that need to be in the team are 12. The second form that I will be showing you how to factor is ax squared plus bx plus c. The difference between the first form and the second form is that the second form has a coefficient in front of the x squared, where the first form does not. To show you how to do this form, I will be using the problem 2x squared plus 11x plus 15. The first step to solving is to look for a GCF in between all of the numbers. However, in this problem, there is no GCF, so I will be skipping this step. The next step is to multiply the 15 and the 2 to get 30. Then I make the t-chart. You need to find two numbers that have the product of 30 and the sum of 11. The easiest way to do this is to make a factor list of 30. You're going to have 1 times 30, 2 times 15, 3 times 10, and 6 times 5. Looking at the list, I can tell that 6 and 5 are the closest to 11. So I'm going to put them under 11. These two numbers will be taking the place of 11x in the problem. So you're going to have 2x squared plus 6x plus 5x plus 15. The next step is to split the problem in half so you have two terms in each side. This is how you get your two binomials. So you're going to bring it down into 2x squared plus 6x and then positive 5x plus 15. Now focus on one of the binomials. You're going to find the GCF of this binomial. So if we look at the 2 and the 6, we see that the GCF is 2. And if we look at the x squared and the x, we know that we can only pull out one x because the x is the smallest variable here. So we're going to pull out a 2x altogether. Now we look at the second one. If the first number in the problem is a negative, that means you must pull out a negative when you factor. However, this is a positive 5x, so you do not need to worry about that here. So we're going to look at the 5 and the 15, and we know that the GCF is 5. However, there is no x on the 15, so that means you cannot pull an x out of this problem. Now I'm going to pull the factors down, so we have a 2x. And when you pull a 2x out of a 2x squared, you're left with an x. And you pull a 2x out of a positive 6x, you're going to be left with a positive 3. Then you're going to factor out the 5. When you factor a 5 out of a 5x, you're left with an x. And when you factor the 5 out of the 15, you're left with a positive 3. A tip to make sure you're doing the problem right so far is by looking at the two terms left inside your binomials. If they're the copies of each other, like the x plus 3 and the x plus 3, that means you're doing the problem correctly. The next step is to bring these two numbers into their own binomial. So you're going to have a 2x plus a 5x. Since the x plus 3 and the x plus 3 are copies of each other, you only need one to bring down. So you're left with an x plus 3. This is the answer to the problem. To check, you'll be using the FOIL system. So you start with your first, and you go the 2x onto the x, 2x squared. Then you do the 2x onto the positive 3, which is positive 6x. You do your inner. You have the 5 onto the x. You're going to have positive 5x. You're going to do the last term, and you put the positive 5 onto the positive 3, so you get a positive 15. You're going to combine your like terms, which will leave you with 2x squared plus 11x plus 15, which is the same as the question you started with. Now that I've demonstrated this form, pause the video and try this review problem. When you're finished, play the video and check to continue. The problem is 12x squared plus 20x minus 8. The first step you're going to do is look for the GCF of the problem. In this problem, the GCF is 4. So you're going to pull the 4 out of the problem. That is going to leave you with 3x squared plus 5x minus 2. Then you're going to multiply the negative 2 and the positive 3 to get negative 6. You're going to make your t-chart here and put the positive 5x and then the negative 6. You need to find two numbers that have the product of negative 6 and have the sum of positive 5. You can start by making your factor list. 1 and 6, 2 and 3. Now don't be fooled here. Yes, 1 and 6 and 2 and 3 can both make a positive 5. However, because it is a negative 6, the negative has to be on one of the numbers. So you can't have a negative 3 and a positive 2 because that won't give you 5. And you can't have a negative 2 and a positive 3 because that will not give you 5. So you must have the negative on the 1 to give you a positive 5. So that will have a positive 6 and a negative 1. So the two numbers will take the place of your positive 5x. So you're going to drop it down here and have your 4 and your 3x squared plus your 6x minus your 1x minus your 2. Now you're going to split the problem in half, and don't worry about the form until we get to the end of the problem, so you can just bring it over here. Now we're going to bring our things into two binomials. You're going to have the 3x squared plus the 6x into 1, and you're going to have the negative 1x minus the 2 into the other. Now you're going to start by factoring out the first problem. When you look at a 3 and a 6, you know that the GCF is a 3. And then you look at your two x variables and you see that you can only pull out 1x because the 1x is the smallest term. Then you look at the second one. Because there's a negative in the front, you must pull out a negative number. So the GCF of a negative 1 and a negative 2 is a negative 1. Since there's no x on the 2, you cannot pull out an x for this problem. So now that we factor, we're going to bring down the 3x, and you're going to, once you pull out a 3x out of a 3x squared, you're going to be left with 1x. And once you pull a 3x out of a positive 6x, you're going to be left with a positive 2. Then we're going to bring down the negative 1. And once you factor out a negative 1 out of a negative 1x, you're left with a positive x. And once you factor out the negative 1 from the negative 2, you're left with a positive 2. Again, to make sure you're doing your problem right, you can check to see that both of the terms left in the binomials are equal. The next step is to drop down your 3 and your 1 into their own binomial. So you'll have 3x minus 1. And then, because we have the two copies here, we only need one of them. So you're going to be left with 1x plus 2. Now, do not forget about the 4. So we're going to bring it down here and put it on the outside of the 3, x minus 1. Now, this is the answer to the problem. To solve the problem, you have to use the FOIL method. But first, you must distribute the 4. Now, you're going to distribute the 4 only onto the 3x and the negative 1. So you're going to be left with 12x minus 4 times x plus 2. Now you're going to continue with our normal FOIL method, and you're going to do the first term. That's going to leave you with 12x squared. Then you're going to do the outer, and that's going to leave you with positive 24x. Then you're going to do the inner, and that's going to leave you with negative 4x. And then you're going to do the last, which is going to leave you with negative 8. Then you can combine the like terms, and we know that a positive 24x and a negative 4x will give you a positive 20x. And then you're going to have your simplified answer is 12x squared plus 20x minus 8, which is the same as our question. This is the concluding of the lesson of factoring trinomials. I hope that this video helped you completely understand the concept. Thank you for watching.